Pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome once again to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. Dr. Travian Scott, COO of the Department of Athletics at Southern University, will join me early in hour number one. Following Dr. Scott of the UAPB Radio Network, Dwayne Lewis stops by and talks about the SWAC Championship game, 2021 version. He'll give us some thoughts on University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Coach Van Pettaway in hour number two joins me, and then Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. He'll join me last but not least. Preview of the SWAC Football Championship game, 2 p.m. today on ESPN2. University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alabama A&M. So we'll have some of that conversation going on as well. Here's simply what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Coach Jason Rollins is now the interim head football coach at Southern University. Not surprised. His name, I heard a lot this past weekend, moving up the conversation. So, he is now the interim head football coach at Southern University, and if things go well, the interim tag will be taken off. He has a chance. This is his opportunity to lead the Southern University football program. Speaking of Southern University football program, Jordan Lewis, named the Box to Row HBCU Defensive Player of the Year and also the SWAC Player, Defensive Player of the Year. SWAC Spring Football Championship, UAPB, and Alabama A&M. That's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Remember, you can join in. I have the Coles Brown Show Facebook page Messenger app open. You can leave me a question or a comment on today's show. Also across all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Email colesbrownshow@gmail.com. Well, it has been a very busy 48 hours, 24 hours, if you want to break it down even further, even 6 hours, 2 hours ago. Conversation about who Southern University would hire. Jason Rollins, safety coach and special team coordinator at Southern University, now the interim head football coach. I thought this was the move that Southern University was going to make. I am personally pleased with the decision. I can support it. And I could have supported any decision except for maybe a few exceptions. A few exceptions. A lot of the conversation recently, from a big name coach, coaches in the conference that applied, can't confirm some of that, some you can't confirm. I'll just say this, there was a huge interest in the position, but when it was all said and done, Coach Rollins, stood out. Now, his resume to me is excellent. Co-defensive coordinator at Tulane. Also, defensive coordinator at the University of Texas San Antonio. Played on the FCS level. Back then, it was called 1AA at McNeese State, 1996 graduate. Also coached there in the high school ranks in Texas. Spent a little time at Northwestern State. So with that being said, it was a hire from within. And now, once again, he has the opportunity to really nail down it from a permanent standpoint. Now, I can't confirm, who or some of those big names, but wow, it was just almost to the point where I almost had to get me a bag to throw up in. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel about it. When you had some of the, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, oh my goodness. I just couldn't see that. And what I will say about all of this is that it has to be a good fit. Now, this is just my own personal opinion. And there are high expectations throughout this conference, throughout college football. But at Southern University, it's everybody can't be the head coach there. It's high expectations. Some may say, oh, that's just unrealistic. You know how I talked about, Atlanta Bus, Celebration Bowl, championships. It would be nice to have them 2 or 3 in a 6-7 year period. I know everyone is upgrading their program, but expectations are high. It's not a good fit for everyone. Just my humble opinion. So my expectations still the same. Just me. Just my opinion. This football team is built as it stands right now to compete for a championship right away. Now, there'll be different scenarios what if Coach Rollins beats Alcorn but doesn't get to the Celebration Bowl? There's different other scenarios. You lose to Alcorn again. What happens? And you notice I said again. But it'll be up to the powers that be to what their criteria is for Coach Rollins to move on. So, I visited with some people. Some people, cautious about the hire, cautiously optimistic. I'm sure some, they don't like the hire. But at the end of the day, I personally support the decision. And we'll see where it goes from this point on. You move on. And once again, I will say this. As far as the media is concerned, I just hope that the focus will always be on getting it right instead of being the first to get the scoop, to break the story. Because there are some out there, and I won't say any names, but my goodness, I just throw my hands up. Go with HBCU media that you trust. And my simple thing is, I have sources, and I vet them. And with that being said, when you vet them, it's somebody you can trust. And sometimes you sit on information or you know of information, you just sit on it till the university breaks it, till an official statement is made. But, I understand the interest of speculation about who's going to be the coach. I get that. I understand all of that. But just remember that. Make sure you're right, first and foremost. Then being the first to break it. And sometimes simply you're just going to be wrong. We're perfectly imperfect. Well, enough of that. I'll hear what you have to say about the hire, your thoughts, your feelings on it. And boy, feelings. People are still in their feelings. My goodness. Unbelievable. Dr. Prince, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm glorious. I'm happy.
You're excited about it?
Yeah, I like the decision. I really do, and I understand some people say that was the move that they had to make with the time frame. I've had people to tell me, well, I would have put an interim tag on right away, and then it gives you some flexibility in time to at the end of the fall season to pick it back up and look at it. So you look at Banks and what they've done, what he's done in the past. This is kind of the trend that he really focuses on. If you can't name a head coach, a permanent one, right off the bat.
Right. Well, to me, it was two obvious moves. You go within, with an interim tag, or what made logical sense to me, and I know some may agree to disagree, you all would have come and got my coach with the time frame and the scenario as it was. Those were the two inside horses as far as I was concerned.
Well, I'll be honest. I think, and I can only speak for myself, but visiting with some in the Jaguar Nation, sometimes you can't come home. And in reference to Coach Dooley, I'm sure he applied, but that just didn't excite me.
Why not?
To be honest. Huh? One, he's at Prairie View. Two, I just think there were better candidates out there. Quite simple as that.
Okay.
But I'm sure he applied. But in the end of the day, the decision that was made by the administrative staff, that's the decision that they'll be judged by. But it's been a lot of excitement. And it'll still be some excitement going forward because very quickly you're going to be in fall camp mode.
No doubt.
And one of the things about this hire is you kind of keep the continuity. Now, it's interesting that Coach Rollins stated that the staff will be intact. I believe you still will have some movement. They will have to add some pieces there. How many assistants will go with Coach Odoms at Norfolk State? But I think the bulk and the main players, the coordinators, they're locked in. So you're built for a championship. You hit the ground running.
Quick question.
Mm-hmm.
How much time do you expect to see the fruits of your labor under Coach Rollins?
Right away. You look at that roster, they're built. And you can argue, you can debate that right now, and hats off to Pine Bluff. They came in and defeated Southern University by 3. But you can argue that this Southern football team was the hottest team at the end of the spring season. So to answer your question, in my humble opinion, they're built to win a championship. And they really have a 2-year window to me. But they could challenge this coming fall season.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Rollins has 2 years to prove himself, in your opinion.
No, I said the mold and the build of this team, they are in championship mode right now. And I can see, my personal opinion, a championship in 2 years. I can see a championship this upcoming fall season. They are built.
No, so like I stated, so he has a max of 2 years to get it right, from your opinion, from what you just said.
Yeah, that's 2 years.
That's what I just said.
I expect the championship. They can compete for it and win one in year 1.
Okay. I'm just making a mental note.
No, I got you. No. That's my opinion. They're built to win right now. Right now. But if you disagree with that, I want to hear from you.
Oh no,
But
I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm just
but
wondering.
no, I'm just saying, in the listening audience.
Oh, okay. In general, I got you. No, because I was just asking. I know that there's a short patient line or patience line for Jag Nation, and being that the guys already within know where all the skeletons lie and what's necessary working and not working within the system. How much time do you give him before you say, okay, this was the right move?
Well, built right away.
Okay.
It'd be different if the cupboard was bare. So with that being said, let me take a time out. If you want to join in, you can leave me a message here on Facebook Messenger. We got a couple coming in, but I promise I will get to them. But I want to take a time out. And when I'll visit with Dr. Travian Scott, COO of the Southern University Athletic Department, Associate AD, and all that good stuff. He's up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union has 13 different locations to better serve you. Locations in Rosenberg, Missouri City, Katy, College Station, Bryan, Brenham, and Waller, Texas. For more information, you can contact them on their toll-free number, 855-391-2149. Or you can send an email to information@bvscu.org.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest, no stranger to the Carlos Brown Show, Dr. Travian Scott, COO, Southern University. Dr. Scott, good morning to you.
Good morning. How's everything going?
Man, I'm fine. I tell you what, Dr. Scott, I probably wasn't as busy as you have been in this week and a half. You doing all right? You finally glad that a decision was made?
Oh man, I'm ecstatic. Trying to recover, trying to get back to some sense of normalcy, if you will. Actually, out watching my son play soccer this morning was a relief for me.
Yeah.
So we were able to go through a process. Obviously, with Coach Odom's moving on, and we were able to go through a process and really be intentional about what we were doing. And I'm happy with Jason Rollins and what he brings to the table. I'm glad that we could get back to normal.
Well, I can understand that, sir. And there's always a process. I had Coach Banks on last week, and he talked about the committee, a small committee. Of course, no names, and again today, no names. But you were a part of that process in that committee, correct?
From start to finish, yes, sir.
Start to finish. Okay. Well, with that being said, talk about the interest for this position. I'm sure you can't give out names, but from A to Z, high profile, maybe high school coaches, but just talk about the interest in this position.
Well, I'll say this: Southern University, in particular, Southern University football, has a real brand and a real following. And as a result of that branding and that following that we have, we were able to attract a myriad of candidates from high school to college assistants, from Division II to HBCU, SWAC, MEAC, all the way up to Power 5, and coaches in the NFL, whether that be the splash kind of. I won't enlighten them with saying that, but the splash hire from the NFL side in terms of a big name or even an NFL assistant, and so we would we would have not been as thorough as we would have been had we not obviously gone through our process and narrowed it down. But the job itself, obviously with Southern football, Southern athletics really being a blue blood program in the Southwestern Athletics Conference, it generated interest across the board. From, like I said, high school coaches all the way up to NFL assistants, even to if you will, Hall of Fame NFL players. And so we're proud of what we were able to accomplish in terms of the vetting process. Like I said earlier, we were very intentional about the characteristics that we were looking for in the next coach at Southern University, the 19th coach. And so process didn't take long, a week and a half. Obviously, Coach Odoms made us aware sometime last Monday evening, I believe. And at that point, we started the process almost immediately. And so, again, looking for a specific skill set, a specific personality, someone with specific values who have their specific mission, vision, and goals. Because Southern University football and Southern University in and of itself is different. It's a different animal. And so we didn't want somebody who maybe didn't understand the gravity of the landscape that we have. So again, we went through the process. We were very intentional. We weren't trying to be fast for the sake of being fast. I can remember my high school coach saying, "Be quick, but don't hurry."
Yeah.
And so we kind of applied those principles and got what we felt was the best candidate in Jason Rollins.
Best candidate. And would it be fair for me to ask you, was also, and it's probably what you just stated, but it had to be a good fit, correct?
Well, you're always looking at fit and feel. Obviously, it has to be a fit for the program, and it has to feel good, right? It has to be someone who can rally the base, who could excite our season ticket holders, but also more importantly, rally our student athletes, and somebody that our student athletes will want to play for, quite frankly. And so I think, with all of those things, and I know we talked about the time of year and all of those things, but I'm from a different school and trying to have the understanding of, we've got enough time to get our student athletes ready through summer. We've got enough time to be able to install and do some of the things. These kids are really resilient. They've gone through recruiting processes. They've had different coaches, whether that be at Southern, at a prior institution, or at high school. And so they're very adept to being able to adjust schematically to what they're doing offensively and defensively. And so that really wasn't my concern. My concern was really just trying to find the right person to lead the Jaguar football team.
I'm visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, the operating officer of Southern University, discussing the hire of Coach Jason Rollins. So how important was it to have the input of the student athlete on the football team?
Well, I think it's critical. not just the student athletes, but the other assistant coaches or the other coaches on the staff, not just the assistant coaches on the staff, but the support staff as well, the sports medicine staff, the strength and conditioning staff, the academics and compliance staff, the physicians who work with our student athletes every day. But like I said, the student athletes were critical. They didn't make the decision. Obviously, they had some input in terms of what they were looking for or who they wanted to see. And it meant something, to be honest with you. But again, being able to take all of that into consideration and being able to vet the process as fully as we were able to, we believe that we got the right candidate, and we're excited about Coach Rollins and what he brings to the Jaguar football program.
Very interesting visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, CEO, Southern University. Dr. Scott, could you address something? I just got a message from a listener. Could you address this if asked?
Well, it depends on what it is, but go ahead.
Okay.
And if it's Avis, the answer is no.
Well, no, and
good morning, Avis.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's listening, but he should have more on his mind besides Southern University. But here it is, Dr. Scott. Carlos, could you address the argument that Southern could have expanded its brand and increased its revenue sources with a celebrity hire?
Yeah, I'm sure I can address that based on what data. Facebook notwithstanding, I believe, again, no knock on celebrity coaches, but we're looking for someone with coaching experience. We're looking for someone to come in and take the program to the next level. And again, no knock on celebrity coaching hires. That's not what we're going to do, but specific and very germane to Southern University football, we're looking for a quote unquote traditional football coach. In terms of branding and marketing, from my vantage point, it comes from winning. There are enough platforms, whether they be paid platforms or free platforms, if you want to talk about social media, if you will, where you're able to get the word out for your program. And so, we didn't want to sacrifice wins and losses for marketing and branding. I think it's a delicate balance. And so, if when evaluating that process, I think you have to have you have to be very strategic and very intentional. Obviously, we want to brand and market our programs, but we want to win and graduate students first. And graduating students is one, and winning is 1A. The marketing and the branding piece, while it's important, isn't going to be at the forefront necessarily of what we do for our student athletes. So that may be good for other institutions, for other processes if you're looking at hiring a football coach or even hiring a coach in general. But that wasn't the most critical and important piece that we were looking for when I did a head football coach.
Dr. Scott, I'm glad to hear that. Your discussion on that situation, because, a lot of that was put out, oh, goodness. And it comes to a point where, you know what, it's got to be, and this is what I said, it's got to be a good fit. And also Southern has a brand of its own,
Absolutely.
In this program. They have standards, they have high expectations. And to me, Dr. Scott, it may not be a fit. And I know all schools have high expectations, but I said earlier in the show, it can't just be anybody. It's not that could be a coach there, because it's high expectations with Southern University and the athletic program, and specifically since we're talking about football, Dr. Scott. But the decision to name Coach Rollins, when it boiled down to it, and you probably had a list of 3 and you narrowed it down, what stood out? Why did the committee, it always came back and, looking at his resume, talking to other people, what sold the committee on Jason Rollins? No, do we still have Dr. Scott? Well, we may have lost him. Yeah. Well, we're trying to get. Okay, we're trying to get Dr. Scott. Was a tough question.
I'm here.
Okay. Boy, you just dropped. Yeah. Okay. Did you get a chance to hear my last question?
No, I didn't. What was your last question?
Okay. When it came down to it, what made the committee decide this is our guy, Coach Rollins?
I think Coach Rollins' experience at all levels, his local recruiting ties, his ability to rally the troops at every stop, and what he's been able to do in terms of graduating the student athletes and having that sustained success. What his past players said about him, and I'll tell you something really interesting.
Okay.
I'll give you a little tidbit of the candidates that we interviewed. Every single candidate said that regardless to what happened, they wanted him to remain on the staff. Not one, not half.
Interesting.
Every candidate. And so I think that spoke highly of him and his ability as well. Coach Rollins has been a defensive coordinator at 3 different stops. He played for a national championship as a defensive coordinator at McNeese. He was the defensive coordinator at Tulane for 9 years, and he was also the defensive coordinator at UTSA. And so, his connection to fertile recruiting ground all the way from New Orleans to East Texas is something that is particularly intriguing to us. That tank of gas philosophy that he employs, that obviously his predecessor had a part in as well, I think is something else that bodes well for us in terms of revenue generation and game attendance, going back to the marketing conversation I think you asked me about earlier. And so all things considered, and also adding the fact of the staff's continuity and some of the things that they were able to achieve as the year went on, it was by far the best decision that we can make. And I'm really, really excited about Coach Rollins and what his staff is going to be able to do once the Jaguars kick off on September 4th.
Visiting with Dr. Travian Scott, COO at Southern University, discussing the hiring of Coach Jason Rollins. Dr. Scott, interim tag, criteria to move forward. What has to happen? The obvious is, you got to win. But could we see what will be the criteria moving forward to take that interim tag off and put slash the permanent?
Without going too in depth.
Okay.
Obviously, Coach Rollins has to have some type of success on the field and in the classroom with the student athletes. I think, though, and my point has always been every coach is interim, right? Because if you don't win, whether you have a contract or not, they cycle you out and bring in another coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that, is something that we're even hanging our hats on. I believe Coach Rollins said it best on yesterday. It's not an interim tag, it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to not only to maintain the level that Southern University football has achieved over the course of the past 7 years, but to elevate it. And he takes that task seriously, and I'll go out on a limb and echo his sentiments and say that it's a real opportunity. It's an opportunity, again, for Coach to put his stamp on the program, to be able to employ those tweaks that he spoke about all week during the interview process, and being able to recognize that we've had some semblance of a sustained level of success, but also what he's going to do to be able to elevate the program to greater heights. And, just hearing that lets me know, interim tag notwithstanding, that he's locked in, he's focused on what he has to do, and not necessarily if he wants, if his contract or his interim tag is going to be removed or extended or whatever may happen. But long story, a long answer short, obviously success on the field, success in the classroom, maintaining and elevating a culture within the football program. And then time. I mean, we've got to give him time. It's the summer. It's trying to get organized and trying to provide the structure for his program. that began last night when he had his team meeting, and will extend through final exams, which we have this week and next week and through the summer, once our young men return on June 6th. And so, we'll have a very good feel about, the direction and the culture of the program. Coach Rollins and I will probably meet, as frequently as Coach Odoms and I did, and that was weekly. And so, we're going to be here to support him, but also we're going to give him the leeway to be able to run and operate his program the best way he sees fit.
Visiting Dr. Travian Scott, COO, Southern University. And Dr. Scott, you're heavily involved with the schedule, and we've had you on previous times, and you talked about the 2021 schedule. And going forward, once again, could you kind of discuss maybe, the conference schedule is kind of set. We've asked you that before, but what direction do you want to see this program as far as non-conference games? Can you kind of give us an idea of that, the direction that you would like to see as far as, different opponents?
Yeah, sure. I think that the scheduling should be in line with our recruiting philosophy, tank of gas philosophy. We always talk about home games, but even out of conference schedules, we want interesting games on our campus. We want interesting games off campus as well, but we also want to schedule contests that kind of flow along with many of the strong alumni bases that we have throughout the country, right? So, for example, Houston would be a great area to go and play some football. Not just Houston, but the Houston area. So anything through Houston, Dallas, the Atlanta area, up through Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama area, kind of explains the Troy game. Memphis has been good to us all the way through Nashville. And being able to play these interesting contests, if they're going to be road games, where we have large fan bases and large alumni groups. In terms of home contests, we've always had the discussion, Carlos and I, about having interesting games at home. We know what the conference schedule entails. We know what that's going to be. It's going to be a rotation every other year. But what we're trying to do is to do the same thing, establish those rivalries and those games with the Magnites 2 hours away that can come in and be an interesting contest, but a winnable contest nonetheless. And every couple of years, every 3 or 4 years, we'll schedule something like an LSU that we have next year, but it won't be a yearly thing. We like to have a lot of schedule and balance. We like to balance, one maybe Power 5 or high-level Group of 5 every 3 or 4 years. But we like to undertake a lot of regional contests, whether they be at home on the road, for a couple of reasons. One, it keeps the recruiting conversations hot and heavy, right? It also can ensure that we're doing things fiscally responsible in terms of travel and those elements, while not jeopardizing the experience of our student athletes, and that's always critical as well. And so we talk about scheduling. One of the things that has become apparent to me ever since we took on Georgia a couple ago is that our students want to engage and play in those contests. They come to Southern to be able to play in those games. They come to Southern to be able to play on NBC Bayou Classic Weekend. They come to Southern to be able to play at homecoming with 50, 60, 70,000 people on campus in a sold-out stadium. And so, a big reason why we schedule the way we do is for all of those reasons that I mentioned previously.
I'm intrigued also, Dr. Scott, about the and you kind of covered it, but specifically FCS state schools. You mentioned McNeese. Would there be an interest, you think, to play other FCS football teams in the state?
In the state and the region. So I would tell you this. Louisiana extends a bit, maybe an hour or so outside of Lake Charles, maybe an hour or so outside of Shreveport. And as far east is probably Mobile in terms of Southland, Sunbelt. And we've gotten interest from all of them. But we're very strategic about where we place games in our schedule. Obviously with the conference schedule and now moving up to 8 games and adding the Florida schools and, the schedule, quite frankly, for conference opponents has gotten tougher. We've got to provide balance for our schedule that will allow our young men and allow our coaches to be able to have breathers as well and not just go through an 11-game gauntlet, right? So we don't schedule money games for the sake of scheduling money games. We don't, schedule, these tough home games, if you will, one behind the other, because we want to give our program the ability to make adjustments on the fly, right? And
Right.
so, with that said, again, we're very, very particular about who we schedule. Obviously, we've got some other components with having the force that is the human jukebox sitting on the 40-yard line. And so there's some interesting components that we can schedule from even a band perspective. We're talking about marketing and branding. I'll keep referencing that since we were asked that question earlier, by the way. That we can do even on that end. I mean, a Miles College, for example, has arguably, obviously not the best band in the land, but a very good quality band program. And so, being able to, bring them down, they have very good football and a very good experience that they can come and offer us as well. So, we certainly take those things into consideration when we're making schedules as well.
Right. And this 2021 fall football schedule is very attractive. And now you're seeing, I guess let me just ask you, 100% capacity in the stadium or a little bit less? Where do you see the atmosphere for the 2021 fall home schedule?
Well, our goal is 100%. I think we're certainly trending in that direction. Obviously, with the advances in science and vaccinations and masking up and continuing the social distance. But it is our goal to be at 100% capacity. And by that 100%, I mean 100% in the stadium and the pageantry and the atmosphere that is Southern football back. So tailgating and all that comes with it. So that's where we plan on being. Hopefully with the schedule as intriguing as the one we have, with the first two games against interesting opponents by definition, and then those last 4 home games where we have I think it's Prairie View, Alcorn, Florida A&M, and Jackson State in back-to-back weeks. We hope that we'll be able to provide that atmosphere across the board with that 100% limit coming back this fall.
Well, that is the goal. And hopefully it's trending in that. And hopefully months from now, things will be even better. Dr. Scott, appreciate the time as always. We'll get you back on real soon to discuss more going on at Southern University, and not just that, but the conference as a whole. It's going to be an intriguing time coming up in the fall. Coach Rollins, now named the interim head football coach, and we'll take it from there. But enjoy your weekend. Any closing comments? You can do that right now if you care to.
Well, yeah, I'll go back to echoing what Coach Rollins said yesterday, and I've been thinking about this all night and trying to decipher what exactly he meant. Coach Rollins made a point very clear that Southern is the standard, and so when you're the standard bearer, there's certain things that come with it. Obviously, if we're saying we're the standard bearer, then that has to be an expectation. And so, if we're saying we're the standard, we're going to challenge everybody to come out. Season tickets are getting ready to go on sale here. Tailgate spaces, the whole nine. Come out and support Southern University football to be an exciting brand of football under new leadership, and we're excited about it. So, again, if we're going to be the standard, let's show that we're the standard. Let's come out, buy those season tickets, and cheer the Jaguars on the victory.
On that note, you're right. Appreciate the time, Dr. Scott. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk again real soon, sir.
Will do. Thank you, gentlemen.
All righty. That was Dr. Travian Scott, COO at Southern University, giving his thoughts on the process, the committee, the decision to hire Coach Jason Rollins. As I stated earlier, outstanding resume, outstanding recruiter, relatively still young, younger than me. And I can support the move. I respect the decision. I like the decision. With that being said, expectations are always high. Once again, the program, the team as it is today, it is built for championship mode. Now, got to go out and get it done. But with that being said, It will be a very interesting fall season. I'm going to take a quick time out. When I come back, I'll get UAPB's perspective, Dwayne Lewis of the Arkansas Pine Bluff Radio Network, and then I'll squeeze in some comments that you have sent in. So you're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Have sports, will travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association, or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swacalumuniassociation@yahoo.com.
Somehow that song just makes me feel good all over. And yeah, someone said, Michael, I'll address you. Southern's not in the SWAC championship game. No, they're not. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know how I like to say facts and opinions. And I love you to death, Michael. You all core night. But congratulations to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alabama A&M. They got it done. And that's just the bottom line. Next guest, Dwayne Lewis of the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff Radio Network. Dwayne, good morning to you from the beautiful city of Jackson, Mississippi.
Good morning, good morning. With you mentioned the SU fight song in the background does evoke positive emotions. As we were talking prior to coming on, different being in this stadium after so many years, memories, moments, and not facing Jackson State, but certainly glad to be in the 2021 Spring SWAC Football Championship game.
Dwayne, yeah, a Southern graduate. You know, as I pull up the picture on the internet here, a beautiful grass field with the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff in one end zone, Alabama A&M. Let me just say this. Congratulations. It has been a season. Doc Gamble and University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, they earned it. They went into Southern University, defeated Southern University. Grambling State, they were able to defeat Grambling State and Prairie View. And they deserve it. So congratulations. You guys now get a chance to play for a championship today. How does it feel this season and being in the championship game?
It's been surreal from a standpoint of playing during the spring. when you take that part out of the equation, I will say that this was the goal all along. And this actually started in moving into 2019 and making the jump from 2-9 in 2018 to 6-5 in 2019. That this was the goal for the next season. This was always the expectation, and that carried over from Cedric Thomas. At the end of the 2019 season, he moved on to Southern Miss in 2020. Guy Gamble picked up that mantle, and the goal did not change. This was always the expectation, believing in the young men that we brought back to the program. So a lot of the guys that are playing this year were on the field in 2018 as freshmen and sophomores. It's a very difficult moment for this program. Many may not recall, this program lost 90-6 to South Dakota State in mid-September 2018. Then lost 62-13 to Prairie View the following week. Then gave up 55 at Florida International the following week. So the period where the program could have really stayed in the conundrum of just mediocrity and not being relevant, Coach Thomas made some difficult changes, moved some guys. Although we didn't finish with only one win over the final 2 months of 18, the foundation was set for 19, 6-5 last year, and then Doc Gamble with a strong approach, planting the seed that we're going to talk about championships every day. But the foundation laid between 2018-19 to this moment. It wasn't the expectation to be here, but it's still an honor to see it come to fruition.
And Dwayne, and I understand what you're saying, and I really applaud that. But even with the best of plans, how about just going in and defeating those teams? We'll start with Southern first and foremost, who, the previous year went up to Arkansas Pine Bluff and won 31-7. With the best of plans, what did that do, though? Did that cement what Coach Gamble had been talking about coming in to Southern University and defeating them in the conference opener?
It started a week at a time. And every week he's had kind of a defined, clear method of how we want to approach it and how he plans to psychological message with our guys. He talked very openly leading into that Southern game how Darius Skelton had gone for about 600-700 yards, 8 touchdowns, and we had not really slowed him down. And he reiterated that the entire week leading up to that game, and we knew we had to play well going in. I mean, the bluff is the bluff. And at Baton Rouge, as we all know, always a tough place to play in Mumford. And I think the second quarter of that game, we got the block punt, put some scores in place, had the lead at halftime. I think it went from believing we could win to knowing we could win. I think for me, that second quarter was the most pivotal point of the season. We had to hold on in the fourth quarter. We knew Southern was going to make a run. But that quarter, I think, set the tone of really belief with our guys that we really can't do this, but have to do it 1 week at a time.
Now, UAPB returns to the league championship game, for the first time since 2012? And
that's
Alabama A&M returns to the title game for the first time since 2011. And as you did your prep work for this ball game, what stands out with this Alabama A&M team? There's the obvious, but is there any particular things that maybe we don't see that you were able to grasp?
Well, they're good as advertised. They are as good as advertised, and Mr. Glass, as Dr. Gamble referred to him earlier this week, he's the real deal at quarterback. Phenomenal athlete. He makes them go. The X factor is the running back, Gary Quarles, that in talking with Doc and looking at film, he thinks he's the X factor with their offense because he's a home run hitter in the backfield. And while the wideouts get the attention, he's the X factor that really makes that offense go for them.
Could it also be, from the outside looking in, if we did a check offensively, UAPB really explosive, Alabama A&M explosive, but I think defensively, whichever defense can slow the other's offense down and force some turnovers and make some big plays, I think that is a huge factor in this ball game. Which defense plays the best? Would you agree with that or disagree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alabama A&M offensively has not turned the ball over in the last 2 games. So when you can protect the football and you're ending drives with some form of a kick, whether extra point, field goal, or punt, it increases your chances to win. On the other side, we have sacked the quarterback 5 times in each of the last 3 games and forced 5 turnovers against Prairie View in the game 2 weeks ago. So certainly that's going to play a significant role. Can we slow them down and can we turn them over? Something they haven't done since the South Carolina State game.
Yeah, because, Glass, if he's upright, if his uniform is not dirty, you get my drift, very explosive, very explosive. But
no doubt.
But Dwayne, I go back again. I think I'm gonna watch the defense. Who can force the turnovers, and who will play the best defensively? This seems to be on target for an explosive game, a high-scoring game. But then, wait a minute, it may just not be that. But do you see it being a high-scoring affair?
I think they're going to be point scorers. And one thing that I think has maybe got lost in the conversation about this matchup is that this is the 3rd straight year these teams have met on the field. A&M came to Pine Bluff and won big 45-14. But people forget in September 2019, Pine Bluff went to Huntsville and won big 52-34. So we've seen them, we played them. It's not like, say, we're playing them for the first time and haven't seen them in a couple of years. There's familiarity, I think, on both sides of both coaching staffs. Connell Maynard has been there the 3 years that we faced A&M and vice versa with Doug Gamble being on the staff for 3 years. The chess match, you mentioned the defense. Granville Eastman is their defensive coordinator. When he was at North Carolina Central, Jonathan Bradley was his defense coordinator. Jonathan Bradley is now our defensive coordinator. So you have 2 coaches who know each other's schemes well, and the chess match between how they try to slow each other down and perhaps maybe what they told their offensive coordinators about how to slow us down may lead to a lesser scoring game where maybe it doesn't get into the 40s. I do think it'll be somewhere mid to high 30s for the game today based on how well the defensive coordinators make those adjustments and their familiarity with the other's offense.
I'm visiting with Dwayne Lewis of the Arkansas Pine Bluff Radio Network. Field seems to be in great condition, correct? Weather should not be a problem, correct?
No, rain ended yesterday around 1 p.m. It warmed up, actually, as the day went on, and right now it's warmer at this point than any point yesterday. Sun is out, the field is glistening, and no rain in the forecast for today. Outstanding conditions for football for a championship game. It is windy. We'll see that. Not sure how much the wind will be a factor right now. Looking at the flags here, it is coming from the south. So those familiar with the vet, that is going, if you're watching the game, it'll be from right to left. We'll see how that plays out as this game goes on. The special teams is going to be key, as you mentioned. But right now, the field and the weather conditions, outstanding shape.
Yeah, boy. Being in Veterans Memorial Stadium in Jackson, Mississippi, boy, brings back the memories. Bring back the memories. And one good thing is, Dwayne, though, you're a Louisiana native, humidity and heat, you're accustomed to it.
Absolutely. And fortunately, it's a great breeze right now. We'll be broadcasting up top on the camera deck, but it's a great breeze, so it'll be climate control from that standpoint. Humidity won't be a factor so much in the shade. But a pretty strong breeze right now. We'll see if that's going to die down, but certainly very, very comfortable right now as we move into the mid-morning here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Dwayne, if Pine Bluff wins, it will be because of what?
That's a great question. I think the poise. And you mentioned going to Southern. You mentioned going to Grambling. And the message for the Grambling game was Ghostbusters, overcoming the mystique of Grambling in Robinson Stadium. Then it was Prairie View from a standpoint of very talented team, had some time off, similar today. The poise of our guys in the moment. A&M is the clear runaway favorite. They have been since this matchup was finalized 2 weeks ago. Can we handle the poise? Can we be poised enough in the moment to just play the game in the way we played the first 4 games of this season. If we can do that, we have an outstanding chance to leave today as champions.
Well, I will say this, Dwayne, that is an interesting point about being poised, on the big stage, a championship game, experience, being familiar with your opponent. Both teams are familiar with each other. I will say this, Dwayne, the winner of this game will be the hunted. They will be hunted in the fall, but it will be a good feeling, though. It will be a good feeling because you at least have a spring championship under your belt. So with that being said, Dwayne, we appreciate the time as always. Check out the broadcast if you can. Tell them how they can do that. I know it's on ESPN too, but if they just want to, say, turn the sound down and listen to you, how can they do that?
We will be live with the pregame show starting at 1 p.m. If you're online listening in Pine Bluff on 99.3 FM and Little Rock on 9:20 a.m. We're also on ESPNU Sirius XM Radio Channel 84, and we're right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and UAPBLionsRoar.com/live takes you right to our broadcast portal. A myriad of ways to listen to today's game. I'll be joined by Arkansas native, college football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion Keith Jackson will join me on the call. We partnered together for the second half of the Prairie View game and asked me to come back and join me for the championship game. So we'll be on live at 1 p.m., full 1 hour pregame show, leading the kickoff at 2 p.m.
Should be exciting. I'll check it out. I like to do that. I'm familiar, and I know pretty much basically everyone on the radio broadcast teams throughout the conference. Thanks for the time, Dwayne. Have a great broadcast and safe travels back, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thank you, sir. Thanks as always.
All right.
Go Lions.
All right. Go Lions. Go Bulldogs. Go SWAC. Go Jags. Even go Alcorn State. Who wants that smoke? Go Prairie View. Go everybody. It should be very interesting. That's it for hour number 1. When I return, I'll visit with the Coach Petaway. He'll join me. And you remember what he said last week? Stay away from his coach. Well, his coach is there. And he has a nice contract extension. So Coach Petaway ought to be happy about that. Also, we'll come back, some interesting comments that's come in here on the Coles Brown Show Facebook Messenger page. Got to read a couple of these. But I'll be back. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
You're looking to expand your business or services? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network help lead the way. With our customized campaigns, we are definitely able to reach your target audience. For more information, dial 832-213-8824. The Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics. The voice of student athletics.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network at Spreaker.com. Maybe only the second time I've heard the Alabama A&M fight song. Without further ado, Coach Van Pettaway.
Good morning. Good morning, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Coach. I'm happy. I thought about what you talked about last week. You, if I didn't know any better, I thought you almost accused me of tampering.
Hey, Carlos, it wasn't just you, it was the Jag Nation. I was upset with the Jag Nation because I thought they were tampering with my coach. And we got the best coach in the SWAC. We got the best coach in the country at Alabama A&M. And I did not want to see him move. But this week we have solidified that. We've given him a contract. And I have put that old rusty, I had an old axe handle. I went on and put it back up because I thought I was going to have to make that trip to Baton Rouge.
Well, he was going to be good either way. He meaning right. Coach Maynard.
Correct.
You know, if he were to have made his way down to Baton Rouge, he would have been in heaven. But he's in heaven now.
Oh yeah, he's on the hill.
Yeah,
so he's on the hill, so he's closer to heaven.
Yeah. You're right. The longitude and the latitude, it is right. A little bit higher than Baton Rouge, because Baton Rouge is above sea level, but not a whole lot above sea level. And then the weather is interesting,
right?
Subtropical. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, it all works out, doesn't it?
Right. And then you got two great teams fighting it out for a conference championship today. And, of course, you know that I am pulling for my Bulldogs, and I wish Coach Maynard and his staff and the players, I wish them a lot of success today because this is a season like no other with these teams having to go through this pandemic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And at 2 o'clock or shortly thereof, and then 3.5 hours later, because if both offenses are so explosive, they're throwing it all over the place.
It'd be a 4-hour game.
It could be easily a 4-hour game. So I understand who you're pulling for. I don't even have to ask you that. But what I would like to discuss with you, the last couple of times we never got a chance to really get into it because there was always something going on with Coach Odom's leaving. And by the way, Coach Pettaway, and maybe I shouldn't, but I gauge social media and talk to different, individuals. And there's still this out here that, the situation with Coach Odom, again, he was not let go. He was not fired. He left. It was a business decision for him. And he left.
Yes. Right.
But some people are still saying, well, you did Coach Odom's wrong. And I understand you have opinions. And opinions. You know what I say about opinions. But the fact of the matter, the fact is they could not come to an agreement. Coach Odom wanted security, and he thought he deserved a 5 to 6 year contract. That's just my opinion. And, hey, you got to do what's best for your family. So, once again, he was not ran off. He was not forced out.
He took a better opportunity for and his family.
Yeah.
And I understand that that's closer to home. That's like going home for him. So you can never fault a person for going home. Right there in Baton Rouge at LSU, you coach from Baylor, she's going home. She came home to Baton Rouge, to Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot fault Coach Odom for going home. But now I did have an opportunity to listen at one of his interviews, and in that interview, he indicated that there are a couple of things that need to be he wished were different at Southern, and none of it had to do with him personally. It was all about the student athlete.
Yeah.
Now you cannot blame a coach, any coach, for wanting to get the best for his athlete, because that's what gives us our job, us taking care of our athletes.
Right.
We stay employed by the different things that we do to see those young people become successful and be good citizens in society. So there were a couple of things that he wished would change, and he's probably got that situation and more with this trip to Norfolk. So that probably came into play with his decision.
And Coach, I don't think anybody would turn down more resources, or more recruiting, more money for a recruiting budget. You need more.
Right, right.
And I understand that, but I just wanted to make that clear again, because some are really, from the outside looking in, it may look one way, but from those inside and in the know, they know that it was a business. It's never personal.
Right.
Well, I've been personal against some former board members, but that's another story.
Right. But see, we as coaches, we have to make the best decisions for our future and our family's future. So when it comes to your own personal life and your family, a lot of these coaches, these moves are made based on that. Me leaving Humphrey, leaving A&M to go to other schools, I always involved my family in that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And if Mama said it wasn't right, it just wasn't right. So we didn't go. And that's why I spent so many years here at my alma mater. I'm at home. And on the outside looking in, people think we had everything. No, we did not. We just made the best of what we had. There are plenty of things that we still need at a lot of these HBCUs. And when I first started coming on with you all, I tried to explain that I guess some people didn't understand it, or they thought I didn't know what I was talking about. But some of the same issues that I brought up then, that's what's happening now. That's why Coach Odom made the decision he made, because some of the same things that I felt that we should be having in some of these HBCUs, he didn't see that happening. And he saw a better opportunity where some of those things could take place, and that was part of his decision.
Yeah, and as I stated last week, I wish Coach Odom's the best. He likes to build programs, and he'll have that opportunity at Norfolk State. But it's kind of they've been down as far as a championship. When I looked the other day, I think 1984 was the last championship in football, and I think they remember the CIAA. So once again, wish him the best. Coach Pettaway, we've been kind of teasing this, and I wanted to know, because I know when you were coaching at Alabama A&M and you had a certain philosophy that you employed there at the basketball program. And as far as recruiting and getting that type of personnel to fit what you're trying to do, does there ever come a time in your coaching history that, hey, say per se, you didn't have the personnel to fit what you're doing? And how is it for a coach to be able to adapt and adjust, even if it's temporary?
Well, you have to. You got to be flexible enough to do that, because in basketball we have to make adjustments on the fly. I mean, the game is so fast, and the way I play up and down, you got to be able to make adjustments. And then when it comes to recruits, you go after the people that you want, that you think will help you continue your philosophy. But if you don't get those, if you don't get those players, you better be flexible enough to change so that you can be successful. Because you cannot bring a recruit in that does not fit your style, and you continue to run that style, because you're not going to be successful. So you have to be able to make adjustments. And I think every year you have to sit down and look at the personnel that you have and decide what's the best fit for that group of young men or young ladies.
Right.
And that's how you have to do it.
And in your history of coaching, was there a point that you had to do it, or it was always that you had the type of players to fit what you were doing?
No. You're not going to have that every year. There's no way humanly possible you're going to have the players, the same type of players every year. There are certain adjustments that you're going to have to make. For instance, if I want a full court press, that tells you right there that I'm not that big under the basket. Because if you put those big guys out there in the middle of the floor, that's a foul waiting to happen. So if I want pressure, it's got to come differently. It may not be full court. It's got to be half court, where now you put him in a better situation for him to be successful. So you got to the coaches have to make adjustments, and the good coaches are the ones that are doing it. Now, the ones that don't stay in the game that long, they're the ones that are not making adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming up with, this is my philosophy, this is the way we're going to play, and we're going to do it that way. You don't have the players to do that, you're not going to be in it that long.
Right. And Coach, we understand, and I know in football it's the coordinators, but I don't think position coaches who do a lot of the actual hands-on approach get enough credit. And then, how important is it to not micromanage? In other words, did you and your assistants ever get into debates about certain ways to do things, or you see something that's not right? How important it is to allow your assistants to have a hands-on approach as well?
I think it's very important. It's very important for their development. It's very important for my development as a head coach to allow the assistants to have input. They have input in practice. They got input into the recruiting process. they got the input in our game plan, what we're going to try to do in this game, what we're going to get done in this game. So I think it's very important that you allow those assistants to work. My assistants work on the floor and off the floor. I try to give them an opportunity to learn everything there is about the entire program. I didn't have just a recruiter. I have coaches that do everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that the programs that survive and the programs that have longevity and have success over the years, I think they do that. And the head coaches that allow their assistants to work, they have better programs. And it's a known fact. And if you micromanage, you're not going to keep that assistant very long because they're going to get out of there.
Yeah.
And if you micromanage everything, you're not going to have a very successful program. I didn't micromanage. They had their duties and responsibilities. I allowed them to do their work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think you have to do.
Coach, and if it comes to a disagreement, how do coaches usually handle that?
Well,
I mean, I know you're the CEO. You're the head coach.
Okay, we vote. We vote. We do things as a group. But as the head coach, I will break the tie. I had a final say so.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the chips fall, they're falling on me. They're not falling on their system.
Interesting.
And then, of course, with doing the concept of my team, I had a group of student athletes, basketball players, one from each class. That committee could come to me to make decisions about our team. And I've always had that. Freshman, sophomore, junior, and a senior. That's your committee.
Yeah,
when there's things that are going on with that program, the committee can come to me or come to the assistant, and we'll go from there. If the committee disagrees with something I'm doing, they win. Because that's the pulse of the team.
Coach, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Very interesting question. What does Coach think of Master P's son at Tennessee State and Shaq's son at Texas Southern University? Both basketball players, student athletes.
I think it's great that the HBCUs are being looked at by the up-and-coming recruits now. I think it started with Maker last year at Howard, and I think that trend is going to continue. I did see that report this morning about Shaq's son, the youngest. Shakur going out there. So that's a great move. I think it's good for college basketball. Master P, I would have loved to see his son at Southern. When Tommy Green was there, Master P was a big supporter at Southern. He put money into that program. He was there. I had an opportunity to meet him at one of the games. So I really wish he had gone to Southern. Southern had recruited.
Well, it's interesting because they come with the name recognition, but apparently they there is some talent involved with you.
Right. They got talent, and then look at this. They got dollars too. They come with money.
Well,
so Dad can help make sure that his son is taken care of. If he doesn't do it directly, he's got context that will help.
Yeah. Now,
see that, and that's what I think people are missing. Like with the Deion Sanders situation. Deion doesn't have to put all his money into Jackson State. He's got other contacts that can help put money into that program. So now from that aspect now, that's a win-win.
From the putting finances in, but once again, when you get into a deep discussion, and I understand that point, but have you had any discussions with other coaches about? But that leaves less opportunities for some of the assistants who, went through the process, and now that's one less opportunity because it goes to someone with a big name and not necessarily head coaching experience. And in Coach George's case, none, zero.
Right,
Have you had discussions? Have you had discussions with other coaches about this?
Yeah, we've talked about that, and you got some on both sides of the aisle. Now you got some that will say that the other things that famous or big name person would bring to the table helps that institution. And then on the other side, yeah, you got the people that are saying that's taking an opportunity away from someone else. Well, that someone else needs to get their resume built up more or better, and then they might have that opportunity. That's only one job, or in our case, that's two jobs out of all the HBCUs that are being occupied by former NFL players, a current former NFL player. Because I think in the MEAC, one of the other head coaches is a former player also, but we don't hear that much about him. But I just think each institution has to look at it differently. Just like even with you all's job, I heard of one of the former NFL players might have been interested in a Southern job. Well, you all didn't go that way. I think you came up with an interim. But our fans and everybody, we have a lot to say now. But the things that may come back to haunt you now, in a year or two, you all may end up missing Coach Odom now, because in a lot of cases now, you don't know what you have until it is gone. Will this next coach even have the success that Coach Odom's had? And I keep hearing that you all have a pretty good team. In other words, you got a great set of players down there, but does that mean that this next coach is going to have the success that Coach Odom's had?
He better. But
right.
But seriously, Coach Fenway, yeah, I said in hour number one, they're built the roster as it is now for a championship. Now, if we go back in history, Odoms was hired basically with the same quote unquote pedigree. He wasn't a head football. He hadn't been a head football coach anywhere else. He had plenty of assistant experience, and he came in on an interim basis with Coach Stump Mitchell. So that was an opportunity, and he did well. Now I'm saying that he did well. I'm tough about going 1-11 against Alcorn State, and I go in my mind, Coach, that if Southern would have won at least one of those championships, would it be different now? But then it came back to you would have
wanted more. Go ahead.
Yeah, me. Yeah. The expectation.
Right.
But again, it was the number of years. I think that was the whole sticking point. He wanted 6. Southern offered half of that. And that's kind of what they do. And Coach Banks explained how they do with the process. So, I really believe Jason Rollins is going to be fine. I think he's going to do all right. And if he doesn't, I'll be the first to say I was wrong.
Well, with that philosophy, I can see why Coach Maynard, if he was interested in the Southern job, or if his agent had him out there interested in looking into that job, I bet you when the agent found out that he can only get 3 years or 2 years, that had a lot to do with his decision to stay at Alabama A&M, especially when we can give him 4 or 5.
Yeah. Well,
so see that
I understand that, Coach. I understand that.
Times have changed. That's something that they may need to look at. That's something that in Southern athletics they might want to look at that now, because they're going to lose out on some coaches that would really be interested in that particular job, whether or football, because longevity and stability for your family, that's what we're looking at in this day and time.
3 plus 1. So really, you're looking at 4 compared to 5. Just say when you first get in the coach, that 1 year difference You really think that's a big sticking point?
You want a recruiting class, Carlos. You need to see a recruiting class through. So in order to see a recruiting class through, that's a minimum of 4 years. In other words, I bring in my own players.
I thought it was for, Coach.
Look, listen now. I bring in my own players and see them to their senior year. So you saying three, and then you may have the opportunity.
It's a mutual option. So you could literally get 4, and then if you and you do well, meet expectations, I think they add on 2 or 3 again. So you end up getting 6, but you just don't get it up front.
Okay, I got you. Well, that's a little better. That sounds a little better. If you're in there for the 3 and you almost guaranteed to get that 1, that gives you the 4 years that most coaches are looking for.
And guess what, Coach?
Most people want a recruiting class.
Right. And Coach, guess what we just did in a semi way, negotiating right here on the show.
Oh.
and that's what you do. One side,
right?
You know, Coach Owens has to protect his agent, has to protect his interest. Southern has to protect their interest, and you see if you can find common ground. And sometimes it just simply doesn't happen.
Right. If it doesn't happen, then I will take the high road. I'm going home. I'll take something else. And that's what Coach Odom did. He had to look out for his family, and he's going back home or closer to home. So I think that's a win-win. That's a win-win.
Yeah. Boy, you're a tough negotiator. Because you didn't have an agent, right?
Right. No, I did not. I did not. And it may have come back to hurt me because a lot of times in our HBCUs, we don't get that buyout money like they do in the big schools. We don't. You got very few HBCUs that are putting that buyout money out there for us.
Well,
and that's the big difference.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to simply just agree to disagree.
Right. And that's why it's not a good fit for everybody. Every school is not a fit for everyone.
Yeah, and Coach, last but not least, I often talk about expectations, and every school, every alumni base, every institution has expectations. Would you agree?
Absolutely, they should.
Right. At Southern, I think their expectations, some have, I think they're being unrealistic, trying to win a championship every year. But how did you meet expectations when you were coaching? Was it something that had you with a lot of anxiety, or just something you dealt with head on and you dealt with it?
Every year you go in with your goal of being to win a championship. That should be your initial goal.
Right.
But every year that you put a team on the floor or you put a team on the field, that should be your own expectation. Now, whether or not that happens, that's a different story. And then your alumni base and your institution, they will decide how long you can be there if you do not meet that expectation. So see, you as a coach, I wouldn't want a coach that didn't think they should win a championship every year. Because if they're not thinking that, they're certainly not getting their kids ready to think that. And that means that you're not going to have a successful program. So yes, that's our expectation going in every year. Now, because you do not control every aspect of winning the championship, that may not come to pass every year. And it's not. There's not a program in America that wins the championship every year on the HBCU level or the Power 5 level. So we as fans, and this is the way I used to do our people, the people that wanted to talk to me about winning and losing, I would ask them, let me see your donor card. If you're not making any donations to my program, those are your own personal opinions. Keep them to yourself. But if you want to sit and talk to me about goals and expectations, what are you doing to help me reach those goals? Have you put money? Forget about just my program. Have you helped the athletic department? Have you helped the university? Now, I can sit down and have a great conversation with you if you don't put some money down. But now, if you got dust in your pocket and you haven't put anything out there, no, I don't have time for that. And I've always been that way.
Right, I understand. And Coach, let me see how I can put this. If you have expectations to win the championship every year, that's your goal year in, year out.
Right.
What is then considered acceptable if you're moving, A, in the right direction, B, you got close, you came real close, but those two things, you're moving in the right directions, and then other intangibles, you're helping students be in a position to graduate, you have no scandals and what have you, that's is good as well. Moving in the right direction.
It surely is, and then that's where you got to have that rapport, right relationship with that athletic director and that president. We all have to be on the same page. Yes, we want to win a championship, but when we had the budget crunch where we couldn't get out and recruit, please remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when you all told us nobody could be out recruiting? This was a very critical year for us.
Resources.
So when you made that decision that everybody had to be at home, those recruits were at home too, and we didn't get to them.
Mm-hmm.
So now you keep that in consideration when we sit down at the end of the year and we do our evaluation.
Gotcha.
You should have a yearly evaluation. You should have your goals and objectives each time you sit down.
Yeah. Administrators and athletic directors, they have their evaluation too. So
right.
You're all tied together. The old saying is, if you got an administrator, i.e. President Chancellor, hopefully you're all on the same page, and it's a partnership. Academic, athletic.
Right, about our goals and expectations. Because you're the ones that know how much money you're giving us. You're the ones knowing whether or not we got the resources to be successful. And Carlos is not. You can be the best. You can pick the best basketball coach mind in this country. If they don't have everything in place, they're not going to be successful. You don't control your block of practice time, because that's going to be based on your kids' majors and what classes they can get at that particular time. So we're not talking about these kids that are practicing at all hours of the night and early in the morning because they can't get a class schedule that will allow them to practice during the daytime.
I've seen it.
Right.
I've seen it right here.
Right, and we're not talking about your academic people leave at 5 o'clock, and your kids can't get to a study hall until after 5. Well, who's there to help them? Okay, so I can't control the academic side of it for my study hall. I can put coaches and my grad assistants in charge of putting our players in a right place, in a study hall. But where's the academic support? Where are the tutors for those kids for those different classes?
Mm-hmm.
I can't control that. Okay, if I bring a kid in that's 6'11" and 190 pounds, and I know I got to get him up to 240, I can't control a training table if we don't have one. I can't control if we don't have a nutritionist that's going to help that kid to put that weight on. I can't control that strength and conditioning coach that is available to help this kid develop his body. See, we develop minds through the academic side. What about developing these kids' bodies? The coaches, we don't control every aspect of that. Our administration has to give us the support to do things like that.
Yeah.
And that's a vital part of being successful in athletics.
It's a partnership.
Yep.
On that note, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Coming on as always, giving a perspective on college athletics, and I guess eventually we'll get your your NBA predictions. It's just a total mess this year.
Yep.
The pandemic plus other things.
Yep.
Well, have a great weekend. The rest of your weekend. We appreciate you as always, and we'll talk again next week. Be safe and be blessed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Be safe and God bless.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take a quick time out. B.J. Jones is up next. We'll get his thoughts on all of the happenings at Southern University. He's a Southern University alum as well, but also we'll preview the Alabama A&M, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff SWAC Spring Championship today in Jackson, Mississippi. We'll do that next. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Drivers and bicyclists both have the right to be on the road and travel safely. And when we're on the road together, safety is a shared responsibility. State law requires drivers to maintain at least 3 feet of clearance when passing bicyclists. And bicyclists should always ride with the direction of traffic and follow all traffic signals. It's safer. It's courteous. It's the law. A message from the Regional Planning Commission Pedestrian and Bicycle Program.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union has 13 different locations to better serve you. Locations in Rosenberg, Missouri City, Katy, College Station, Bryan, Brenham, and Waller, Texas. For more information, you can contact them on their toll-free number, 855-391-2149. Or you can send an email to information@bvscu.org.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Sweet music to my ears. Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day joins me. B.J., sounds sweet, don't it?
Oh, man, lovely sound, man, lovely sound.
Oh, boy, gotta have fun. Somebody I think is probably not a fan of that fight song. Oh boy. But anyway, DJ, it's been a long 24 hours, 48 hours and a week. You're a Southern graduate, alum. Your thoughts on the hire of Jason Rollins, Coach Rollins?
I like the hire. It's, wait and see. See what happens. I think, at this time, and it's hard to go in and reset in May. Season starts, camp starts, in 2 months, 2.5 months. And what you have wasn't broken. Wasn't broken. The only thing you need to do is tinker with it a little bit. So I understand we talk about timing and climate and everything. It makes sense. He gets an opportunity to interview for the job and let his work speak for itself.
Well, I've had a listener to already kind of give me, I'll try to read it, and I appreciate it. Some disagree, some agree. About the hire. It was from within, and BJ, that there was speculation from A to Z on this situation. I'm sure if it was a head opening job at Prairie View, for example, it would be a lot of interest. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
And so with that being said, you heard all the big names. Dr. Scott mentioned that they heard from NFL, coaches from the NFL pedigree, high school, collegiate. So it was a big interest to that. You had a chance to look at his bio, correct? Coach Robert.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Impressive, or just nothing stands out, just average, no better than anybody else. But what are your thoughts on his bio?
I think one of the biggest things about his bio is the connections and recruiting, and how well he's done in recruiting, not only at Tulane, but UTSA, being named one of the top recruiters as far as the G5 schools are concerned. Having those relationships with those New Orleans coaches, not only New Orleans coaches, but coaches across the state of Louisiana. And then the best thing that you can say about a coach is what your former players and people who work with you have to say about you, and they were all positive things. Coach went on yesterday, and I forgot who was the coach. He said that Jason Rollins was going to be a head coach sooner rather than later. Southern may have gotten the jump on everyone else. So everyone in the business, players, all have great things to say about Jason Rollins. Jason Rollins gets the opportunity, like I said, to put it to work this fall.
Yeah, and it's important. Again, when I'm hearing Ed Reed, I had to go think. I thought about getting a adult beverage. I really did. Marshall Falk, I could not have supported that. Just my opinion, because and I understand what will be brought to the table, but it had to be a good fit, and I'm big on that. The timing, of course, is important, but when it's all said and done, it's an audition, basically, this fall season. And let me ask you this. This roster, in your opinion, is it built for a championship? Yes or no?
It's not only yes, but it's an absolute. This roster is built for a championship. You look at the all SWAC selections postseason. You look at what you have coming back. Yes, this is a championship team.
And by the way, congratulations, Southern well represented in the Spring Awards. Jordan Lewis. It just was a good season to say that you had stoppages. You're still going through a pandemic, BJ. So kudos to everyone who made it. And again, once again, congratulations to UAPB and Alabama A&M playing today for a championship. Let me ask you this, BJ. We saw also during this time, and I think it may be something that will continue to happen. Now you have more media members. Now some I don't even know. Just coming out of the woodworks now. And how important is it to get the story right? We often say no one can tell the story like us, our HBCU media. And you posed something interesting on Twitter that I found very fascinating. There comes with that responsibility. Did you see maybe overkill and some more concerned about getting the story first than getting it right? Or shall we say getting the story first?
Yeah, I think that's the thing with media across the board. People jump on things and, try to get stuff out there. And, and for me, from a media standpoint, I always try to stick to the X's and O's and kind of stick to what I know. But I will say this. I think that sometimes we come down harsher on our HBCU media than we do other people. You see other folk get stuff wrong and backwards all the time, and they get the passes. And I've seen people in the HBCU media market get stuff wrong maybe once, and that one fail, that one miss by them almost cancels everything out. We should give us as much grace as we give anyone else. And that's what I was talking. And that's what I was talking about from a Twitter standpoint. I remember someone in HBCU media broke the Deion Sanders story. People saying there was fake news. You got people from the 4-letter network break it, and it's like, oh my God, I'm jumping on it. So I'm like, hey, this person, who you can touch, broke it first, got it out there, and there was fake news, and you never went around and apologized. And that's the thing that we do. We kind of treat our HBCU media kind of like the redheaded stepchild. And then we put everyone else up on this platform, these people who really have no interest in you unless something really good or really bad happens. They're not there day to day. And more importantly, they don't have the blood, sweat, and tears, because most of our HBCU media comes from HBCUs. We are products of the HBCU. That's why I put that out there.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to see you trying to emulate others, the 4-letter network, the other media, and trust who you know that's proven. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And that's all. And I don't want HBCU to fall in that trap, that perspective. In general, across the board, be right. That's the most concern. That's the number one objective, to be right, than to be first. So that's my little tidbit. I appreciate your comments and perspective on that. With that being said, the game today, intriguing. Preview it for us. Alabama A&M, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then if you care to do so, sir, you can give a prediction, or if you just want to just preview it, that's fine as well. But it should be a very entertaining game today.
Yeah, I think with this game, I think you expect to see a lot of points. I think you got two of the best quarterbacks in the conference as far as spring season, with Skylar Perry and Akil Glass. I think that these receiver cores, both Ballard and the guys for Arkansas Pine Bluff, Zay Moore and the guys for Alabama A&M, you might have two of the best receiving groups right here. Offensively, the star power is there. If there is a question to be had, it's on the defensive side of the football. Amani Holloway can go. We know what he can do, linebacker Alabama A&M. But the rest of the defense has to play up to its part. Arkansas Pine Bluff, that defense is we've seen a Prairie View team who struggled to score points against Grambling and Texas Southern light Arkansas Pine Bluff up. Could have hit them for more if it wasn't for turnovers. This game is going to be high. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think at the end of the day, that young man, Akil Glass, and congratulations to him getting his degree yesterday from Alabama A&M.
Yeah,
that's the biggest championship that you'll win. But I think that he's going to be the difference maker. I like Alabama A&M to win this one. Maybe about to score maybe 41-38.
What do you think about both defenses? Not their strong point. Which defense that can make perhaps contain, not stop, but contain, will give his team an advantage? Which of the two defenses, who do you think has to play the best?
If I had to give an edge to one of them, Arkansas Pine Bluff needs to play solid, all right? And they need to find a ways to get to Akil Glass, get him out of rhythm.
Right.
They're going to have to blitz a little bit, be unique with your blitz packages and your coverages. They're going to have to do that. Arkansas Pine Bluff will give up tons of yards. We saw this against Southern, 20-20. They are really good in red zone. And that's because in the red zone, the field is condensed. Everything that you had in your arsenal is no longer there. You're covering less space. They're really good there, but so is Alabama A&M. But I think defensively, I would give the edge to Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Okay, defensive Arkansas Pine Bluff. Offense, who you give the check mark to?
Alabama A&M. There's not a better quarterback.
So that's why your prediction, huh?
Yeah, there is not a better quarterback in this conference, and I will argue that there may not be a better one in FCS than Akil Glass. That young man is that good. I like what he's able to do. He distributes the ball around. You'll see him complete passes to 7, 8, 9 different receivers in a ball game. I like him. Gary Quarles, running back, Alabama A&M, could be a big difference. Remember this name also, Kendrick Johnson, tight end from Alabama A&M. People will focus on the receivers. Kendrick Johnson is more than a capable tight end. And if he has a big day, it's going to be a long day for Arkansas Pine.
Special teams going to be important.
I think Arkansas Pine Bluff has an edge there. They have blocked. I think they've blocked 3 punts so far this year. And they had a big block against Southern. Had a big block against Grambling. They got a return and a block against Mississippi Valley. Special teams, I'm going to give the edge to Arkansas Pine.
Intangibles, coaching.
This is a tough one. I think these guys, I think here it is a push. I think Doc Campbell and his staff, I think he's put together a great staff, what they've been able to do. I think it's close. I'm going to give Maynard the edge. His guys have been together longer. We've seen them be able to sustain this and what they've come from Alabama A&M. I think the jury's going to be out on Doc Gamble and his staff for a couple of years because Arkansas Pine Bluff was already trending this way, had so much coming back. He's almost in a Rollins type of situation. There's so much, the cupboard's not there. Everything's already going. I just need to jump on the train and just keep going in the same direction. I don't think you'll be able to really evaluate that staff to maybe 2 or 3 years down the line.
Breaking news, and see if you can address this. B.J. Jones being considered for a head coaching job in the SIAC. Can you confirm or deny that?
I don't think so. And for the denial, I've done now. No. I just got back into coaching. I am comfortable. I'm back on the sidelines as defensive coordinator, linebackers coach. I like my role.
I understand that. I was being facetious, but well, it's going to be an interesting ball game in the SWAC football championship today. B.J. Jones, his prediction: Alabama A&M takes the championship. With that being said, B.J., I said earlier, the team that wins will be hunted in the fall because of that spring championship till they belt. And when you look at Alabama A&M, of course, in the East, locked in with Coach Maynard now, FAMU and Bethune coming in on the eastern side. In the West, of course, your usual people, Southern, Grambling, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Prairie View A&M, and then you're adding Alcorn State in the West. When Media Day is together, could you see the scenario of who could you see being picked on paper to come out of the West and the East? I'm just going to be intrigued by what you have to say.
You want me to tell you what I think, or you want me to tell you what the media
No. That's the secret. That's the key point. Who do you think they will say? Not what you think, but who do you think will be picked on paper to come out of the East and the West?
Florida A&M coming out of the East, Alcorn State coming out of the West.
Mm-hmm.
I think those will be 2 teams.
Yeah.
That the media will be.
On paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a discussion with someone, a colleague, yesterday. He said he wouldn't be surprised if Southern's picked third in the West.
You may have that. You very well might have that. Yeah.
Yeah, because Pine Bluff will be up, and you remember how when you go, the defending champions are basically they're going to be picked one. The run up, they're going to be picked in the division. But it's just interesting to see how you think that will go. Yeah, but that's the key thing. I said, what you think they will predict, not with you. Now we'll come back with you at another time. BJ, enjoy the game today in your man cave and have all your good snacks and what have you.
All right, Carlos, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. The voice says healthy snack.
Oh, yeah. I'm already on it, man. I'm on this wedding diet. So that goes without saying.
Yes, sir. Because if mama's happy, everybody's happy. Have a great weekend, BJ. Appreciate you.
All right, Carlos.
All righty. Dr. Prince, who do you have tomorrow night on Sunday Night Live?
Well, right now we have Eric Dooley scheduled in, and I have a couple of pendings, depending on the outcome of this game.
Pending?
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends on who wins the game.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. Somebody's going to win.
Somebody's going to lose. Yes, sir.
That's right.
Now, did you give your projection who you said was going to
win? No. I haven't, but my heart says and my head says Alabama A&M.
Okay.
But if I'm wrong, I'll definitely let you know about it.
I'm pretty sure we'll both let each other know about it, right?
Yeah. Want to thank Dr. Travian Scott, Dwayne Lewis, Coach Van Pettaway, and Brandon BJ for being in the guest menu today. Producer of today's show, Dr. Michael Prince. And to everyone who listened and tuned in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to save your messages, and I'll get a chance. I'll dedicate some time next week to read them. I really will. Appreciate all of you. Don't forget, Cash App, the Carlos Brown Show, if you care to make a contribution to this production. Until next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Until that time, as always, peace and God bless.